Good afternoon, um, good evening, good morning to each and every one of you. We'd like to welcome you to SKTV. Welcome to this edition of Mental Health and Wellness. We'd like to welcome each and every one of you. Welcome, 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 and welcome. Welcome to today's show. Um, let's share the show. Help us to share the show, please. Um, Today we are concluding here on our topic, as you can see on the headline, integrity versus despair. We are concluding on that today. Um, we also want you to be aware that we will not be on as of next week. As of next week, we will not be on. Will not be. We will be here for an inauguration. So we want to welcome each and every one of you to today's edition. Let's invite someone, please. Um, invite your friends, invite your loved ones. Let's have this conversation for today. Let's conclude it and let's move on to another subject coming up here soon. We are concluding the human growth and development or psychosocial development aspect. Basically, it's the foundation. It's considered the foundation of, by some, of mental health, psychology, and so forth. But we want to conclude on it today. We want to welcome all of you. Um, welcome, welcome in, welcome. I want to lay the premise really quick for the show before we move on. Let's have you share the show in the meantime. I want to lay the premise. I want to make sure that we also, I wouldn't want to say some guidelines. I want to lay the premise really quick for the show before we move on. Help us share the show. Um, help us share really quick. We'd like to lay the premise here as always, or we like to share what we term as disclaimer. Let's put us on disclaimer really, really quick. We In that disclaimer, we want to make sure that we inform you that this is not a counseling session. Um, this is not a counseling session. This is an educative, informative um, session. We also want you to be aware. Um, Bertha, you're not late. We barely started, so that's good. We're still on the announcement. We haven't even, you know, um, play the music as usual to share the show. So you're you're in good shape here. So we want you to please be aware that this is for politics, no politics. We do not do politics here on this segment. No, we don't. Um, we also want to inform you or want to make a disclaimer that no drama. If you have issues with anyone, no cursing. No. If you have issues with anyone that you would like to say maybe disagree, let's be respectful in our disagreements. Um, it's okay for all to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's respectfully disagree with one another. Yes, let's do that together. Let's respectfully disagree. Another thing also, we would like to inform you about. Yes, at some point we'll open the phone lines for you to call in and offer your position or so forth, but we'd like to, let's be respectful of one another. Let's be respectful, and as we go through this segment, let's be respectful. I think if we do that, we would be on the right path here. Help us to share the show. Help us to invite someone. We're concluding, like I said, we've been talking about the 8 stages of psychosocial development. Some would call it the human growth and development. I know for sure some people do call it the human growth and development in psychology. I also know there is a course on it. And the reason for that is because I've taught this course, so I'm aware of it. And so it's very basic. It's, for the most part, it relates to most humans. And so that's why we're starting off on it. Next week, we have no show. We'll not be having a show on mental health and wellness. The following week, we would have guests on here. So let's conclude today. Let's conclude integrity versus despair. This is the last stage. Let's conclude it, but let's get onto this musical break here really quick. Right after that, we'll get into our conversation and so forth. Help us share the show. Which one I should play? All right. Help us share the show. We own no copyright to this song that is about to play. We own no copyright to it. Someone make me laugh.
First time I saw your face, I knew I was in love. Baby, your smile takes my breath away. And they can say what I want, girl, I don't mind. As long as you are by my side. Baby, you smile of paradise. Baby, girl, come be my love life. How many times do you want me to say I love you? Cause then I tell the world I do. Even you want me, girl, I do. Baby, girl, come be my love life. Inikuma. Girl, I'm by ilikuwa. In any way, you will come on. How many times do you want me to say I love you? Cause when I tell the world I do. Even you want me, girl, I do. Baby, girl, come be my love life. How many times do you want me to say I love you? Cause when I tell the world I do. Even you want me, girl, I do. Baby, girl, come be my love life. I need no painkiller cause you took my pain away. Don't need umbrella, I will take the rain away. Inikuma. Yeah, girl, I'm by Najua ilikuwa anyway, you will come on. How many times do you want me to say I love you? Cause when I tell the world I do, even you want me girl I do. Baby, girl, don't be my love for life. How many times do you want me to say I love you? Cause when I tell the world I do, even you want me girl I do. Baby, girl, don't be my love for life.
Well, thank you. So let's get into the conversation here really quick. I think it's important for us to get started. Let's get into the conversation really quick here. On the top of your screen or whatever you're watching, your gadget, you would see most of the times, for those of us who are just joining, this will be, for some of us, it will be new. For some people, it's a repetition. For those of you who followed us throughout this time, you're quite aware that about the definition of mental health or mental health and wellness, what it really means. Because in order to start this entire conversation, it's important for us to put this thing into context, for people to know exactly what we're talking about. Because in as much that mental health could be relative for some, it's important for us to have a concise, non-biased or not culture related or restricted definition of what mental health and wellness is. So based on that, according to the World Health Organization, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, social, it includes and social well-being. But mental health also affects how we think, how we act. So not only that, it includes all these different aspects that we just talked about, such as our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, but mental health also includes how we act and how we feel. So the way you might feel might be different from how someone else feels. So all these different things put together, make up our mental health. But most importantly, our mental health also helps determine how we handle stress, how we relate to others, healthy decisions that we make, not just decisions, but healthy decisions that we make, and choices as well. So that's part of our mental health. So your ability to make healthy decisions, your ability to express how you feel, how you think, and so forth, put all these together, bring up our mental health. It brings up how we feel, how we act, what we do, the decisions that we make. So that means in essence, when we're making certain decisions or we're doing certain things, it reflects on our mental health. It reflects on where we are mentally. So certain decisions that people make, obviously it tells you where they are mentally. Certain things that they do also tell you where they are. Certain way people dress as well should tell you where they are. Like last time I was saying, you can't be in a weather that's a certain degree and dress a certain way. For example, if you were in, I know my Minnesota people would get mad at me when I make the example. If you are in Minnesota in a cold weather where it's below a certain degree, you surely don't want to be wearing booty shorts or, in a very short, now warm clothes, or having shoes on as opposed to having sandals or slippers or whatever it is and walking around. That doesn't cut it. It's too cold for that weather. Similar thing with Phoenix, as opposed to Phoenix. You don't want to be in a 90-degree weather and be in a winter coat, a very hot winter coat. It makes no sense. It's the weather. It doesn't add up. When you start to dress that way based on the weather, then people might question where your mind is, or why are you acting that way? What are you thinking? This is not the appropriate weather to dress that way. So, but most importantly, it's also important for us to take into consideration that mental health is important at every stage of our life, from childhood to adolescence through adulthood. So that's very important for all of us to know, that mental health is important at all stages of your life. All, not one, not just restricted to just one stage of your life. Every stage of our life, our mental health is critically important. And it is important also for us to keep track of our mental health in these different stages so that we know exactly what we're doing, what we're getting, and what's going on. So all of these things are very important. And all these things define our mental health, what mental health means. All of these things define what mental health means. So now that we have the broader context of mental health, let's move a little further as to, why is mental health important? So, as you already are aware, mental health is important for different reasons. When you look on the right side of your screen, I'm not sure it should be the left. When you look on the right side of your screen, the far left of your screen, you should be able to see a picture, an image of people standing in or with different signs or so forth. You see from the very first part, someone say physical, the other part, someone say emotional and spiritual. The other part, someone say social. The other part, someone say your economic or your financial. Another part, someone say your intellectual, your intellect, how you think, how you process things. But for the sake of this conversation, mental health is very important overall, because mental health is important for our physical health. Our overall health is very important. When you are not mentally stable, it also impacts your physical well-being, because then you will be at risk. You wouldn't be safe. I give you an example. For those who work with people who are mentally challenged or so forth, normally one of the primary reasons you are hired is, to ensure their safety, but to also make decisions for them, because mentally they cannot make those decisions. They cannot process those things enough, like you and I, who are mentally stable, to make certain decisions. So it's important that you're hired to do that. And if you were to do the contrary, then not only that you will get in trouble with the state or local authority or your job or whatever it is, or family members from that person, but it becomes a big problem for you as a human, who knows better and who should be helping this person act better. The same thing with us in our community, in our society. When you know better, then you should act better, So another thing also about the importance of our mental health is, for example, if you are not okay, it can increase depression, which can essentially impact your health, your physical health, and create health problems for you. So it can also, if you are not mentally okay, it can also create condition for things like diabetes. Let's say you have depression. Depression is a mental health issue. It's a psychological mental health issue. So I'll use the word psychological mental health interchangeably, because, they kind of work hands in hands, just as to not confuse you. They basically would mean the same thing. So your mental health, once things like depression can lead to diabetes, can lead to heart disease, stroke, and other things. Similarly, when they can become chronic. When they become chronic conditions, these things can also, impact your mental state, because those who are not okay from a physical standpoint, from a health related standpoint, over the time, once they become chronic, it impacts their mental health, vice versa. So although the terms mental health and psychological issue I use interchangeably, poor mental health and mental illness, they could not be the same, So mental illness is more of the severe part, very, very severe, the severe part of it. So again, our mental health is very important, and you don't want to have mental illness, because your mental health would help you make, again, decisions. So let me give you another example before we move further. Let me give you another example. Another example of not being mentally okay or not being healthy would be, that you can wear large. I always say this, and sometimes people think that it's personal. It's not personal. But you work for your hard-earned money, and you went to the store or to the shop or whatever, or to the mall, and you bought yourself, you can wear large. You bought yourself a small. It speaks volume of where your mind is. Someone might say, well, we're trying to be sexy or whatever it is. It doesn't make any sense. Let me put it that way. Somebody might say, well, that's not your business. I'm my own money. Bottom line, it don't make any sense. It does not add up, because maybe at your age and based on your weight or your size, you should be wearing a certain size. Now, if we can understand somebody bought a gift for you, that's a different thing. But if you went there and bought it by yourself and you couldn't make that rational decision to buy your own size, it shows judgment problems. And some people might have different excuses for it, but the bottom line, that's what it means. So let's fast forward. What are some of the things that will cause mental illness or mental health issues? What are some of the things that will cause them? There are a lot of different factors. Let's be honest. There is not one pinpointed factor, or just pinpoint down and say this one is the only reason for mental health issues, or that will cause mental health issues. Or no, there's not one. There are different factors and there are different things in play. So I'll give you an example. When someone's pregnant and they start to drink while they're pregnant, especially the women, you start to drink alcohol, whatever it is. We call that predisposition. What you're doing is you're predisposing, or you're exposing your child or the unborn child to alcoholism, or you're using drugs. You're exposing them to that. And that can be problematic. It can impact that child. Child will come out, somebody will say, God forbid. Well, I don't think it's God forbid. I think it's just the choices that we make in the outcome we get. So you start to drink, people talk to you, don't drink when you're pregnant, whatever it is. In your life, your business, you're young, you got to have fun, you got to do this. Boom, you have the baby. Later on down the line, 16, 15, 14, the baby starts to drink too, or starts to smoke, become an alcoholic. And you start to wonder what's going on. Well, let's go back to your history. What's going on was when you were pregnant, you thought you would still have fun. You made a choice to get pregnant or not, whatever now. So bottom line is, predisposing children, or some of us were predisposed as well to certain things, and it becomes a problem for our lives. We got exposed to these things, and now they're impacting our life. So there is no single cause for mental health or mental illness. There are numbers of factors that could contribute to rates of mental illness, such as drugs and alcohol. Let me say this to you. Get mad all you want with me, but these are just a fact. They're not my facts. They're the reality. They're scientifically proven. drugs, alcohol can cause mental health problems, especially over time when it's done, especially when you are mixing them up with these different hard liquors, and you're mixing all these different things up, and you're smoking the hookah. You don't even know what the content of those hookahs are, what they put in there, whatever it is, and you're using them, and it can lead to problem. It can lead to problem. I know some people say, well, you're being judgmental. No, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just being factual. We have to say it this way so that we can inform and educate you. So they can lead to problem. Somebody would argue, well, that's not true. I've been drinking liquor for this amount of time. Let me give you an example. Why do you think they can pull you over for DUI? The reason they can pull you over for DUI, or the reason someone's pulled over for DUI, is not because they don't have the right to drink. They are not above the age to drink. Yes, they're above the age to drink, but you pose a risk and a threat to the general public and to yourself when you drink and you drive. Reason for that is the ability for you to react, the ability, once you put substance in your body, or you put it, you take in some substances or whatever now, what happens is it alters your ability to function normally and naturally. That's just what it is. It alters your ability to function naturally as how other people would function on a natural God-given day. So the expectation is, if you are supposed to stop at a red light because your mind is altered, the part of your brain that's supposed to tell you stop at the red light, that part will not be functional. You could hit on the gas and move further when there's red light or so forth. So that's why people get arrested. Long story short, there are also biological factors that could impact us, that could impact the brain. There are biological factors. There are biological factors that could impact us as well. There are lots of biological factors that could impact us. Also, having feelings of loneliness, being lonely can also impact you. Isolation can impact your mental health, can impact your mental health and lead to mental illness. So there are a lot of different things. Experience from traumatic abuse or chronic medical problems are some of these problems, or adverse life experiences such as traumatic experiences, abuse, history of abuse. What else? Sexual abuse, witnessing of violence, and other things. These are all factors that can impact our mental health and wellness. These are all factors that can impact our mental health and wellness. And yes, I would have to agree with you, Elizabeth, that yes, you are considered under the influence. That's exactly the term that it is used. You are considered under the influence. That is the term that is used. So again, we remember this guy here, Erik Erikson. He talked about the human growth and development. He did talk about the psychosocial aspect of it. Now, there is another guy who talked about the psychosexual aspect of this. At some point, we'll talk about him. But based on this conversation, we'll focus on Erik Erikson. Erik Erikson was a German-American psychologist. He did lots of good work. He did a lot of good work. But let's move on. So let's move on to his different stages of human growth and development. As you can see, there are 8 stages. We started off initially with trust versus mistrust, which is in the very first stage. And that stage is anywhere from 0 to maybe 18 months or less than 2 years or 1 year or whatever in that stage. We talk about anonymity versus shame and doubt. That stage is within 2 years. We talk about it. But we also went ahead and talked about initiative versus guilt. We talk about industrial versus inferiority. So when you hear the term inferiority complex, we talk about other people are industrious. Industrial in this context it means your ability to be able to build things, your ability to be able to come up with ideas to help the person become, let me use the word, prepare them for the future. So people who are industrious, they're innovative. Let me put it that way. They're able to push some things. They're able to contribute, as opposed to people who might feel they're not industrious, then they feel inferior. So the word inferiority complex, it comes around when you hear that word. it comes in that stage. We start to pinpoint it because children start to work with other people. When they can't achieve what they want, they throw temper tantrums, they start to cry, they start to act up, or whatever now. So all of these different factors need to be taken into consideration. We talk about identity versus confusion. We said in this stage, people start to have identity crisis, peer pressure and all of that. We talk about intimacy versus isolation, where you see on your screen, you see people getting married, people getting. We talked about the importance of intimacy is not necessarily restricted to sexual activities or romantic activities. We talk about the different aspects of intimacy. We also talk about isolation, because it lays the foundation for all of these things that we're seeing now. People are isolated. Some people getting problems with their friends. They can't maintain a relationship. Even their family members, they isolate themselves from them. They fight with family. They fight with everybody. They cost everybody. They cost their mom, cost their power, move around the house. All these different things. So you isolate yourself, or you had a bad experience in relationships, or in a community, or whatever it is. You decide, I don't want to deal with like people or this. You move somewhere far off where nobody knows you there, or whatever. Now, and you are isolated. You have no support system, whatever. Now it becomes a problem. That too can be a problem. But let's move fast forward. We also talked about generativity versus stagnation, where some people are stagnant in their lives. They reach to this stage now where they just stuck. They can't go before they can come behind because of some of the problems that they inherited from a very onset, from a very young age. So we'll talk about all of these different aspects. Today we are talking about the 5th stage of psychosocial development, which is integrity versus despair. Last week we talked about integrity. Today we're talking about despair. So we told you last week about some of the expectations. We'll run over it really quick. Some of the expectations of integrity versus despair. We told you what to expect at this stage. Or in this stage, we told you that based on research, this stage starts at age 65 and it ends at death. Now, bear in mind, at age 65, we're talking about retirement. We're talking about, not being physically fit to some extent to do some things. So this stage is very important. But this stage prints a picture of how you live your life when you were much younger. It gives you a picture to some extent. It does. It provides a picture. It provides a summary of how you live your life, because then there are some things that you will reap at this stage or some reciprocals that you have at this stage. Please don't get me wrong. Not everything that you do good in this stage is expected to come back to you as good. No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And it's not restricted to that. But at this stage, integrity versus despair, it begins with adults begins to tackle the problems of his or her morality. So at this stage, let me put it this way, at this stage, morality is very important. Your morals. Some people call it your values. Some people ethics. Some people views. Some people religion, and so forth. It's very high. So that means, in other words, at this stage, it's not common to have a 65 years old man trying to holler of our 18-year-old, 20-year-old girl. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. That's not the expectation. The expectation is you'll be behaved, you'll be grandpa or grandma, and you put yourself together. But hey, things happen, to each his own. But I'm just saying that's not the normal expectation or whatever now. So at this stage also, the expectation is at 65, 70, you wouldn't expect you to have a full-time job or working or whatever it is. Maybe you've worked, you've saved some money up, and you're in retirement age and you're doing fairly well, you're contributing to society. At this age, we don't expect you to be lying. We don't expect grandma and grandpa to be lying. We don't. Whether you are in politics, you are not in politics, we don't expect you to be lying. We don't expect you to be among the children misbehaving and, creating chaos or fueling chaos, gossiping, jumping around here, misbehaving. No, we don't. At this stage, we don't expect you to come in public and misbehave. We expect you to be wise, mature, intelligent. At this stage, no, we don't expect that from you. But not to say that some people do not choose to do that. Though. Some people do choose to do that. So The onset of this stage is often triggered by life events such as retirement, the loss of a spouse, the loss of friends and acquaintances, facing a terminal illness, and other changes to major roles in life. Yes, indeed. At this stage, there are some major things that can happen in life. People's life can change. People can love. They can lose loved ones. What about death or other things? Some people might not be too, like I say, healthy at this stage. They could be sick at this age or whatever now. And there could just be some major changes in roles in their life, at that time, some people have it on good, some people don't, some people it's challenging for them. Some people turn out to be homeless. Some people at this stage, they're still working. It feels very sorry to see, an elderly person working like a young person, it's a little, it's sorry, but that's the reality of life. So also during integrity versus despair stage, people reflect back on the life they have lived, and come away with either a sense of fulfillment from a life well lived, or a sense of regret and despair over a life misspent. Yes, yes, and yes. So in this stage, well, you either have regrets, or you ask. So really quick, I want to talk about integrity before we get straight into despair, because integrity might not be interpreted as we see it as, just the word integrity or whatever now. So the question becomes now that most of us might be asking, what is integrity in this context? What does integrity mean in this context? So integrity in this context refers to a person's ability to look back on their life with sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. So let me say it this way. If you can look back over your life after all you've done, after all you've lived, and you start to have regrets without any sense of accomplishment and so forth, well, then you are in despair. Then you are in despair. So now the question becomes, this is all about integrity. Okay, so the question now becomes, what is despair? As you can see, the lady back there, she's staring in despair. Somebody says she's curious or whatever now. She is in despair. So what is despair? So in the context of this conversation we're having, such as mental health, psychological or mental wellness, mental illness, or whatever it is, despair refers to looking back on life with a feeling of regret, shame, or disappointment. So that is despair. That's what despair means. So for some, despair could be bitterness. There are some older people that are very bitter. It could mean regret. For some people, it could mean, ruminating over mistakes. They're just going over mistakes that they made in their life. They wish they could turn by the hands of time to get those time back so that they can change some things, but it doesn't happen that way. Feeling that life was wasted. For some people, they feel that their life was wasted. They have this huge regret where they feel that their entire life was wasted. Some people feel very unproductive in this stage. They feel like they're unproductive. They wasted their life, they wasted their time. They did not invest in themselves. They did not invest in their health. They did not invest in their well-being. They did not invest in the future. They did not invest in the children. All of these different things. And let me say this. I want to be clear on this part, because this part of your life where you get in despair, it's not coincidental. It's not something that just happened or someone bewitched you, or people made medicine with you and people didn't like you and people wish bad for you or evil on you or whatever it is. No, that's not what it is. That is not what it is. What it really is that at some point in these different stages that we talked about, you made some decisions, whether consciously or unconsciously. I give you an example. Some of the things we do now. When we tell you, stop the drinking, and you say, oh, it doesn't mean anything. I stay young. I'm chilling. And just imagine one of the things I would tell some of my students would be, okay, You're still young. You're still energetic. That's fine. But let's say you drank every weekend. You have an 18 packs or 16 packs, 36 or whatever you want to call it. Those are just beer. Just imagine, I'm not talking about hard liquor. I'm not talking about the vodka, the dark Jack Daniel, but what a different name they have. I'm not talking about those ones. I'm just talking about beer. If you had every weekend, if you drank six packs, or let's just say 6 of those beer or whatever it is. Some of them I've looked up the ounces there, 16, 18, 12, or whatever now. Think about it. Just make the calculation. If you were to drink, I don't know if I'm still good at math or whatever now, but we'll see here. If you were to drink 6 every week, imagine every week there is 4 weeks in a month. Some have 5. Well, but we'll stick with 4. Imagine this. You drank every week 6 parts, so 6 packs. So let's say 6 times 4. That would be 24. Let's say you did this for the next 10 years. Forget about the hard liquors. We're not including hard liquors. These beers, they're not high liquors. They're not as high in content as the vodka and other things. Let's say you drank this. Let's say you did this for 10, 15 years. You've not graduated. So 6 times 4 was 24. Then let's say we did this for 10 years. Okay. So 240. Well, in essence, what you're saying to us over these 10 years, you have been drinking almost every weekend. And again, I'm not talking about the hard liquor, because at that stage now you are maybe in an addictive stage, which we'll talk about at some point here. Imagine how much of a alcohol content you've placed in your body and how you've exposed your body to these unnecessary, unhealthy things that would affect your health and your well-being down the line, whether you like it or not. There is no way you can escape that. There is no way you can escape that. And so that is the problem we are faced with. That is the situation we're faced with. That is the issue we're faced with. So you see, so some of the mistakes that we make, or let's say somebody might say, well, I don't drink, I'm cool. Let's say you're working and you decide to not invest in the future. The $10, $15 that you're supposed to be paying in taxes or so forth. You say, well, I wouldn't pay it. I'm smarter than the government or whatever it is. You make all the excuses. Nobody take taxes for you or whatever it is. That's not going towards your Social Security or other things though. And then you retired. You start to look into your Social Security benefits you are not getting as other people. Or you never invested in your children. You get older now, maybe because you wanted to be hot and sexy or whatever. The state or the government takes your children away from you and give them out to your boyfriend or your husband or your ex or whatever you want to term it as, or family member. No one want to have anything to do with you. You don't want to have anything to do with them because you're still young, you're still exploring, you're traveling here and there, you're still hot, you're still sexy. You have no bond, no connection, no relationship with your children. And you get old now, who's supposed to take care of you? You ready to think they make up the homeboys, then bouncing around, moving from state to state and misbehaving and not investing in yourself or the future. You really think that would take care of you? It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. So this stage is not coincidental. No one swear you or put a curse on you at this stage. There are some things you do. You lay the groundwork for this stage. Just even in having a support system to help you, because when you reach at this stage, you would need a support system. But you cross your mind, you cross your path, you fight with everybody you left. You You don't stay in touch with them. You don't call nobody. You got no friends. You got no permanent friends, apart from the ones that, you hang out with today and tomorrow you're in another group, you're in another crew. All these different things can lead to this stage. So this is why it's called despair, because in this stage, you're stuck in this stage. In this stage also, it's very depressive. You have depression, you have hopelessness. You start to go back, reminiscent, think about it, time or whatever it is. There's some things that you can't change at this stage. So let's move fast forward here. So to talk about some of the consequences of despair, we want to talk about some of the consequences of despair. Despair can have serious consequences on a person's health and well-being as they face the end of life. So in this stage, let me just be honest. Bottom line is, you are headed or you're preparing to die, whether you like it or not. And that would happen to all of us. Somebody would say to me, well, why would you say that? Well, I will say that because that's a fact. At this stage now, you're not going back to be reborn. You're going to die. Either or, it's not a choice. It's just how life progresses. So in this stage also, there are increased depressive symptoms. So such as the feeling of despair at this stage of life can be marked by feelings of low mood, hopelessness, sadness, feelings of worthiness, which are also symptoms of depression, of worthlessness. I mean, not worthiness, worthlessness. So in this stage, because you're in despair, feel like you're not worth anything. They're sad. Hopelessness kicks in. You don't have much of a hope. You don't know where to turn. You don't know what to do. And sometimes you're very lonely. You're depressed. People in this stage, it's very sad. It's very unfortunate. But that's just the stage that they're in. Also, in the stage, there is an increased feelings of regret, increased regret in this stage. There are a lot of regrets in this stage. I wanted to ensure that is pointed out. In this stage, people who look back at their life with despair are more likely so to ruminate over mistakes and feel regret for the life they've lived. Let me say it again. In this stage, there are a lot of regrets. People start to regret a lot. People regret a lot in this stage. There's a lot of regret. There are some things you want to change, you want to fix. You cannot change them. You cannot fix them in this stage. A lot of regret. You would regret why you wasted so much time here or so much time there, not doing what you need to do that would be productive to help you or to help your own children, your own family members, or so forth. Why you didn't invest in this, why you didn't invest in that. You start to have these regrets. A lot of regret. Another thing about this stage also, the consequences of this stage, which I want to talk about, is decreased life satisfaction. So in this stage, you have a decreased life satisfaction. When people feel despair at this stage, they are also less likely to feel satisfied with their lives going forward. Again, they will not be satisfied with their lives. This can have an effect on their ability to cope with stress and decrease their resilience. Sometimes it can lead to early death. We term that sometimes as frustration, as hopelessness, sadness, depression, loneliness. People are angry. People are not happy. They're not satisfied, and all of that. And sometimes we can see some of these things in, especially for some African, we can see some of these things in just how our parents, loved ones, and family members relate to us, how they act to us, what they do, how they treat us, whether in our relationships now or in our lives. They project their feelings on us, probably the way that they didn't live, the things that they didn't do, the things that they didn't accomplish. They want to force you, they want to push you, to either take on that path or to want to go, like, let's take for example, somebody wanted to be a doctor. They couldn't be a doctor because of different reasons. Now, that's not a career path you want to take, but they're forcing you. And once you don't agree, it becomes a problem because it's their idea, it's their feeling, it's what the one that they're projecting on you. And when you refuse, it becomes a problem. Now, again, I'm not saying being a doctor is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, but people should be allowed to choose their career path. They should be. On the other hand, also, when you're choosing a career path, also, it should be meaningful to you and look into something that would be able to help you, take care of yourself. Something that pays or something that will pay you, that you make ends meet. So let's get to the last part here. How to decrease despair. How to decrease it. A lot of the things that people can do, but we were able to coin or get about 5 things that we could focus on that are realistic, timely, that we can achieve, that are achievable. So one of the things is we need to reach out. You need to reach out to other people. Stop allowing your pride to hold you. You need to reach out. That is, if you wrong people, don't say after 10, 15 years, they will just forget it, everything will just be normal. No, reach out. Apologize. Take responsibility for what you did, your part. Own up to it, and if there's need for you to ask for forgiveness, do. There's nothing wrong. It won't change your name if you ask for forgiveness. So focus on building social support. Discussing your feelings with friends and family can help or look for a new connection by participating in community groups, or organizations. So at this age, at this stage of your life, it's okay for you to, reach out for help. It's okay for you to attend community meetings. Like I said the other day, some people were taking it. I didn't know. Being part of the community is very important. It's very, very important. Some of you look for all the excuses to not be part of the community or do not contribute to the community. You say to yourself, well, I want to be among Liberian people. I want to be, well, you're Liberian, whether you like it or not, it's not going to change. Another thing that we're expected to do is, to focus on positive things in this stage. Think about the memories and the events that brought you feeling of pride and happiness. So yes, so in this stage, there are some things in your life that you did that brought you pride and happiness. Think about those things, reflect on them. They could make a difference. Another thing also that you need to do in this stage is to explore new experiences. Explore new experiences. Seek out activities that bring you pleasure and joy in and here now. It's important for you to look into this. Look into activities that are healthy, that will bring you joy. Another thing, engage in spiritual practices. You need to engage in the spiritual practices. You need to engage in spiritual practices. If you're a spiritual person, if you're Christian, you're Muslim, whatever your religion, the religious preference might be, engage into it. Find ways to explore your spirituality, which may help bring feelings and peace and well-being. Now, I'm not saying go put yourself in a situation wherein your pastors or your bishop or imams or men of God, or however you want to term them, would exploit you. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying find ways that your spirituality will help you, will make a difference in your life. Another thing also is, the last part also is get help. Don't be proud. Get help. If you continue to struggle, with feelings of despair, consider talking to your doctor, a mental health professional. Maybe experiencing symptoms of conditions such as depression or anxiety. So yes, you might want to consider speaking with your doctor. Those of you who are put away for this long, maybe it could be time for you to get the help that you need. Maybe it could be time for you to seek help. Look at your insurance. Maybe your insurance has something on it that qualifies you to see a counselor or therapist or something. Get the help that you need. You will need help. And if you need it, get the help that you need. That brings us to the end of our conversation for today. I'm not sure if you have any question or any concern. These are the references. Should you need any of these, let us know. We'll make them available to you free of charge. Any of these materials, we have them. If you have any question, we'll give you the next 5 minutes. If there's no question, then we'll call it a day and a weekend. If you have any question or any concern, please feel free. Any question or any concern? Any question or any concern? You can post your questions in the live feed if you do. So again, next week we will not be on. We are having our inauguration, so we will not be on next week. We will not be on. We are having our inauguration here in Phoenix, Arizona. We want to welcome all of you. You're welcome. It's open to the public. Come and hang out. Come and meet some of us in person. But we want to welcome all of you to Arizona. So next week we'll not be on. Unfortunately, we would love to be on, but we're not. So we want to look in the live feed here if you have any question or any concern. If not, we'll call it a day for today. And we'll just wish you a very good weekend. We wish you a good weekend and wish you the best. Stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble. Okay, Rose, you say you want a number? Okay. All right, hold on 1 second. Let me post the number for you to call on. Rose wants to call, so let me post the number, Rose. Give me a second, okay? I'll post the number, Rose. I will. You know me. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from, please?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? What's your name, please?
My name is Rose Joy, calling from Philly. How you guys doing? Come on.
Hey, Rose.
Calling from Philly. How are you?
How's Philly?
Welcome.
I say, how's Philadelphia?
Philadelphia is good. It's good.
It's snowing there?
So I just wanted to call to say thank you for the show. Good. Okay. Good information, and also there's a lot of Christian people in Liberia, a lot, and it's so funny because they think they're in higher position and they think they are some, but there's a lot of Christian people in Liberia. This mental thing is a serious thing, but Africans, we have the stigma that when we think we got mental problems, then that's a problem, you know. So thanks for the show, and you know, I hope there was a lot of people listening, because you give a lot of tips and stuff like that. Even sometimes when you feel like you're okay, and you sit back and you just want to just go talk to someone, because it's necessary. No matter how mentally good you are, sometimes there's a lot of things you need to go talk to people about. So, and I think people need to also be evaluated before they be put into offices when it comes to mental problems and mental health. You know, before they be put into offices in that country. I don't think we do that. I don't think we look at stuff like that. So I just wanted to contribute. That's all my contribution.
Thank you, Rose. And yes, I agree with you that, you know, I wouldn't use your phrase that you coined, but I would agree with you that we do have some serious challenges, especially in Liberia, in terms of mental health and wellness, or
Right.
you know, drug abuse, substance abuse issue. I agree 100%. You know, on a daily basis, I started this journey sometimes 2016. On a daily basis, I get reports, I get other information about, you know, the issue of mental health in the country
Right.
and how it's increasing, especially amongst the young people. And we term it as Zogo, and people play around there and they laugh with it. It's serious. It is serious. And if something is not done about it, we could inherit the future is challenged,
Right.
to be quite honest.
Definitely.
And so some of these things, they need to be prioritized, you know.
Right.
And this is not mutually exclusive to one government. This is something that'll spill
It
over from one,
continues, yeah.
right, from
It
one
continues.
government to another.
To another,
so-
yeah.
The government would have to prioritize that, you know.
Right.
And it's expensive. It is expensive, you know, to the bill for. Let me say this. Most people don't know this. The bill for patients who go to the mental health side or the psych side and the regular medical side, they're different.
Different. They're totally different.
And most
That's why
people,
it's not popular.
exactly. That's why it's not popular, but it's very expensive.
Very expensive.
And that's why you hear some people saying psych nurses make a lot of money or whatever now. You know, they coin us different terms. It's different, you know. But again, we have to prioritize it as a nation and as a people. We have to. I hope we can invest into it. And I will also say here in an open forum, the government or the people of Liberia do not need to hire some of us. They can hire other people. But let's address this issue. And I want to say though, because it is expensive, I want to say that anyone that will listen to me that though, you know, a nurse, a mental health practitioner, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a therapist, a social worker, however you want to term your credential, I know they will not waste their time to do a pro bono work, because this work is very expensive. It requires a lot. I'm telling you, this thing can give you if you're not taking care of yourself, can give you a mental breakdown, because you hear horrible stories. I have heard horrible stories. I've seen horrible things in my profession, in my practice. So I know exactly what this is, you know. So I mean, people would have to, you know, get on with this and take care of this. So I agree with you that we do have challenge in our country. Thank you so much, and we'll be in touch. Thank you, Rose.
No problem. Thank you for the show.
Yes, sir. So, we want to give the announcements for tomorrow, and we'll call it a day. We want to say thank you, and thank you. Thanks so much to all of you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your support. Next week will not be on. The following week, we'll make the announcement for the conversation that we have. We're still debating if we should have 2 other people come on so that we can just have a general conversation, or we will have a friend of mine who would come here and talk about her own ordeal. She understands that there will be no confidentiality because of the fact that there's a public forum. But We'll make that determination this week. And we'll put the announcement, we'll announce it. But we want to announce to you tomorrow, SKTV will be on. We do have a check SKTV site. We do have a guest tomorrow. We do have a guest tomorrow. He will be our guest, Mr. Martin C. Kula. Martin Kula will be our guest tomorrow for us to talk about a range of things. Martin Kula will be on SKTV tomorrow. He's our guest. Everything is arranged, set to go. We're happy to have him. So please be on tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Martin Kula will be talking to us directly about some of these things. So we'd like to bring Martin Kula on. Please inform other people. Let's come on. Let's get this going. Let's get it running. Thank you so much for your time. Happy weekend. Stay out of trouble. Stay safe. And let's continue to support one another. Have a good night. Have a good evening wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
You don't even know my story. You don't even know your story, oh yeah. Oh yeah, you know on the day, I be a loca. So mora, you post your new car on Facebook. But I so la la, you working better. Loving and acting jealous, say you photo. My advice for you in my way I got to confess. Confession. You gotta confess. You must have the impression. Enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, no more stressing. Enjoyment, got your blessing. Enjoyment, no more stressing.
It's never be another man trash, just another man treasure. Another man fool, it's another man poison. Got your code, according to your measurement.